Hello, everyone. So today is December 26th, the day after Christmas. So, Merry Christmas to everyone. Um, I hope that you have been enjoying December and that you enjoy the last week or so here before moving into January, because January is basically going to be a burst of new energy, and it's going to be quite an interesting month. It's heading into the whole new year. As I've been saying, November and December, in both of those predictions, I was describing those months as being a pivot point, kind of like you can think of it as we are aligned in one direction and then we kind of pivot and realign in a different direction as far as where we are headed as a collective for humanity and the future. Um, what's interesting about January is that it is the first month of the year, and it just so happens to also be the first month of this massive realigning. And a lot of this has to do with what I was saying would happen way back in November. A lot of disclosure, a lot of information being leaked that is now coming out. This has to do with the drones. But before I get into that, I want to say in this video I will be going over the drones, the ETs, world news, what is coming up in the future, as well as going over a little bit of what's been going on in December, and of course, Bitcoin, general advice, and just reading the overall energy of what's going on for January coming up here. So the drones, as I predicted, there would be more of this for December, but there would be also less truth coming out. And I believe that's the case because what we've been seeing so far for December is that it's just a bunch of disinformation. I mean, unless you believe that these are just drones, which there are many people who believe that, but I'm just going to say that they are not just drones. Now, I predicted that there would be less things in the sky heading into January. That's what I said last month at least. And I do see this being the case, that there may be less things in the sky. I also was saying that there will be more obvious, blatant truth coming out. So December was kind of that month where there's more lack of truth, lack of things leaking, and January it's going to be much more obvious what's going on in the skies. Since I've put out that information, I have heard other people from other organizations. I guess I'll just mention them. Farsight has been saying that they're seeing or getting information that there are going to be UFOs that are real ETs that are going to be in bigger ships. And so this correlates with what I was seeing. Bigger, more obvious, that there will be less of them, less things in the sky. I think that's going to mean maybe less drones in the sky, but there's going to be more obvious, undeniable ET activity in the sky. Now, this isn't to scare people, and the whole point of this is to do this as slowly as possible, kind of like, if you're trying to pet a cat, you don't run up to it and scare away. You don't scare the cat away. It's just like that with ETs towards humans. They're not trying to run up and scare us. They want to kind of incrementally come closer and closer until we can kind of come up and sniff their hand and feel comfortable, and then maybe they'll be able to pet us a little bit. That's a metaphor, anyways. But so more disclosure. Especially in the second half, I think there will be a toning down of the amount of drones in the sky. And this is not ETs, but drones. Now, I did make a video about this, so if you haven't watched that video and you want to understand more of the situation, I would highly suggest to check out the video. It should be in the description of this video or in the comments section of this video. There will be a link to the drones and what's really going on in the sky. I posted that a couple weeks or so ago. But in that video, I asked, because they were not being shot out of the sky, and I was asking, why are these not being shot down out of the sky? And the message that I got back was that the government, for lack of a better word, because it's not quite the government, it's kind of like organizations loosely associated with the government, but for a lack of a better term, I'm just going to say the government. The government wasn't able to shoot them out of the sky, and they knew that, so they weren't trying to do it. But since I put that information out, things have changed because they've progressed, and there have been things being shot out of the sky. Now, I wasn't sure if these were ETs or if these were drones or if it was a cover-up, if it was just something put out there that's not real in order to scare us. So I asked, what's going on with all of this now? And what I got back was that there is technology that the government did not have, at least generally speaking, but very, very small amounts of people within the government had access to this technology that was coming from the ETs. I mentioned before that there are ETs behind the drones. And so a lot of these drones are actually ET technology, and so some of that is coming out more to be used more by the government, although it's kind of like, there's people at the top of the government and they have this really high tech that comes from ETs, and they don't want anyone else to know about it because, well, there are spies, in every government. And knowledge is power, so they want to keep it totally secret. This is super top secret technology, but it's become more of a desperate situation, so that they need to start using this. So I do see them shooting down these ETs, but I have heard other people saying this information too, but what I have not heard them say is that these ETs ships, the real ones, the orbs that are being shot down, I get the sense, and this is also from my own past experience, but also from what I was reading, that these are living ships, if that makes any sense. They're not quite a ship with a ET in it, but the ship, in a way, is alive in and of itself. And it isn't just like a machine that's AI, although it's basically I get the sense that that has life to it, like real life. So it is dying in a sense, but at least it's not a ship with another ET inside of it. So there is that. That's the sense that I was getting when I tuned into that, at least. So what's going on is some of these ships are getting too close and the government is able to shoot them down. That's just not really the normal government. You could call it the deep state if you want to call it that. But basically what's going on in January coming up here is this massive shift in energy. What I've been talking about now for like a couple of years now going on is how there's this energy coming from ETs. This is not the same group of ETs that we're seeing in the skies now. This was coming from far away, and it was the sense that I get is it's almost like coming from some type of machine or something like that. I don't really know exactly how this works, if it's a physical machine or more of like an energetic mechanical process. But regardless, that's what I'm getting, is it's coming from far away and it's being sent to the earth and increasing the frequency, helping us evolve, allowing what's going on now to be able to take place. That's what I've been talking about for like years now. And what's happening now is that these ETs are coming to Earth. These are different ETs, and they have a different strategy. They're not really changing the frequency from afar. It's kind of like there's two different groups of ETs here working for disclosure. They're all in the same team, but they kind of have different ways of going about it. So they may have slight disagreements in how to proceed, but they're still working together in other ways. But the mere presence of these ETs coming to Earth, that energy is affecting the Earth, and people's awareness of it is allowing that energy to influence them even more. And this is having a net effect on the whole planet, actually shifting the frequency. And so January, there's going to be just kind of like an explosion of this, and it's going to be very intense, especially on an individual level. And this may be a little abstract for some people out there, but it's not going to be necessarily something that you see in the news. It could just be something that you feel energetically within yourself and your own anecdotal personal experience. So I do get the sense that this energy is actually increasing the IQ of humanity. You could say actually animals too. I'm getting the sense that this is affecting dogs as well. So I believe that that could be probably all animals, but I definitely got dogs as well as humans. So that's interesting. People are starting to think for themselves more, and the truth is really starting to seep out in January as far as what's going on. Not just within the skies with ETs and things like that, but just kind of all around. People are not trusting the media as much. I said this like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 months ago, that people were just going to stop trusting the mainstream news, and we've really started to see that happen more and more, and it's going to be a big thing in January. Alright, so that's what I have for the drones. And if you want to watch that video about the drones, make sure to check out the link in the description. Moving on to Trump. So I see Donald Trump for January being full of promises, talking a lot, being full of talk, and I don't really get the sense that these things are going to pan out into February. So that's kind of a ways from where we are now in December, but January, it's like he's making all these promises, people are going to get really caught up in it, and then February is going to come around and it's not really going to follow through. So Trump may be getting a little ahead of himself. I don't get that he's really lying, but there could be a good amount of propaganda in here in the sense of building things up and, getting people to root for him and stuff like that. But it just doesn't seem to be really working out in the way that he may be making it seem. I was getting the sense of angelic promises, as if it was like he was like the just the way that it came through, the way that I was seeing it was like he was like angelic, making these angelic promises that were just like almost too good to be true. But along with that, I was getting the sense that you don't want to get too caught up in expecting these things to happen, because it looked like that could really take you away from putting your energy and focus into things that are more fruitful for January. I was getting the sense that Joe Biden is going to be leaving some traps in January, like setting up traps. This looks like around the Ukraine Russia situation, making it difficult for Trump to come in and do things in the way that will work for him. And there's going to be one last attempt to do as much damage to Russia as possible. Now, I did get the sense of an explosion. I don't know if this is literally an explosion or more like a symbolic explosion. But regardless, with that came the message that Russia is prepared for this. And so I don't see it being that big of a blow to Russia. And by the end of January, I did see Joe Biden being not really too happy about how it all kind of played out, and things just not really going as great as he had wished as far as that goes. So moving on to Bitcoin here. So Bitcoin for December, I was saying that it was going to go up and come down towards the end of the month. It started to come down a little bit. We've still got about a week here or so to go, but it did go up and it's coming down. It kind of came up a little bit, but now it's starting to go back down again. So it is following through with what I've been seeing for that. I will say that November, I was getting the strong sense that it was going to go up really high and come down like super strong, and it would be like devastating. That did not happen. Although I said that like 6 months ago, and since then, like remote viewers, like the Future Forecasting Group, Dick Algire, and all of them were seeing the same thing for November, as well as other psychics putting out the same information. So it's as if there was some sort of thing that was supposed to happen, or not supposed to, but was going to happen. And then it didn't happen. But I do see that instead of it happening all at once in November, which didn't happen, it's kind of become like more of a slow progression throughout, all the way out to March is what I'm seeing. But as far as January, I'm thinking Bitcoin could go down to 80K or so, maybe lower. Of course, these numbers are never exact. It's just kind of getting a rough estimate of a sense of where it's going. But by March, I get the sense that Bitcoin could go all the way down to 40K. I know that's pretty low. I don't think it's going to stay there. I think if it does hit that, it's just going to be like down up, like a really quick flash crash type of situation. And it will come right back up, but it will still be pretty low and relative to where it is. But from March or so, I think it's going to build. There could be another little crash situation around August or so, but again, it's going to go right back up and continue on. So I don't see it being a major situation. Of course, none of this is guaranteed. The future is always malleable, and I could always be wrong. So this is not investment advice. Use your own discernment, please. And I always say it's best not to put all of your eggs in one basket as well, and diversify your portfolio. But I'm not going to tell you how, because I'm not an investment advisor. People have been asking about the stock market. So I don't really see too much going on in the stock market for January. It seems to be basically sideways for the most part. So nothing too major, although Bitcoin may be suffering a little bit more. So yeah, I talk about all of this and much more cryptos on my Patreon page, so you can join my Patreon and see the hundreds of crypto predictions there. If you have been watching this and you appreciate this free information I put out every month for free before the month starts, give this video a thumbs up. I always appreciate that. Also, subscribe for monthly predictions before the month, every month. And I will throw in really quick that I also have a psychic meditation class where I will be teaching people basically to tune more into their own energy and other people's energies, and kind of notice the difference between your energy and external energies and how you can kind of clear that out from your own auric field in order to make yourself have more clarity and therefore make clairvoyance much more of a natural, easy process. And from there, I will, if I have enough people to continue teaching a class, I will teach a class on how to read and do what I do. But for now, we're just doing the psychic meditation class. Let's move on, but I will talk more about that at the end of the video. So moving on here. What's been going on for December? Really quick, I made some predictions about violent protests in Europe. Apparently there was over 400 people arrested in Georgia over violent protests. The news was saying, in quotes, gangs of masked men in black have begun attacking opposition politicians, activists, and some journalists in recent days. The news was also saying protesters say they are responding to police attacks. And apparently this was over the fact that the country, not state, country of Georgia, was pushing to join the EU, and then they backed out of that and they're no longer pushing to do it now, and they're going to put it in the back burner and do it later. And that made people angry, and there were a lot of violent protests. Of course, there will be links to all of these things in the description if you want to read all the news articles to see what I'm talking about in more detail here. Also, there was a car that drove into a crowd of people in Germany. And this was kind of confusing at first, but basically what the news has come out and said about it is that he supported anti-Islam and far-right parties, including the Alternative for Germany, AfD, and has criticized Germany for its handling of Saudi refugees. Far-right crowds gather after the attack. So that's come up in the news. Also, I was predicting that there would be explosions in the ocean. Last month I said this. Explosions in the ocean involving Russia attacking NATO, but not directly attacking, but attacking their economy. Now, right after I put that video out, within the first week or so of December, there was news of a ship dragging their anchor across the ocean seabed, disturbing many internet cables that run along the bottom of the ocean, to the point that actually two of them actually broke, and it disrupted internet to a bunch of NATO countries. Now, I also said that BRICS countries would be ganging up as well, and this is basically what is going on here. So what the news was saying is there was a ship called Yipeng 3, which was a Chinese ship. Coincidentally, this Chinese ship came from Russia, so you see the collaboration here. And NATO has since had 3 military exercises in the Baltic Sea involving explosives. So they're, basically saying, hey, like, we're in this area, don't mess with us, and we're going to shoot off some explosives to show you, like, look what we can do. And so that's why I was seeing explosives in the ocean around Russia, involving Russia and attacking the NATO countries economically, indirectly. So that's what happened there. Also, I'd like to mention really quick here that I did a reading on my Patreon page recently about Finland, and it just, not just Finland, but lots of European countries I've been doing readings on lately, and it just seems that there's always something about trade coming up. And even before Russia invaded Ukraine, before that even happened, I did a reading way back on Finland, and I will post the link to that video. It was actually a reading on Sweden and Finland all in one video. And I predicted that there would be conflict in the ocean, in the Baltic Ocean, I believe, to the south of Finland, and there was going to be some sort of explosion, and it was going to involve trade routes, and it would not be like total devastation or like war between two countries like Russia and Ukraine, but it would more just be like some sort of economic battle going on. And so that's exactly what we saw with years after I made that prediction. The Nord Stream pipeline was blown up. Of course, we know that was the US was involved in that. Of course, that was denied, obviously, but that's the truth. And since then, now we're seeing more activity going on in that area as well. So that seems to be a thing that may be continuing on and into the far future, not so much near future, but long term. It seems like there's going to be a lot of issues with trade in that area, and possibly rising sea levels as well. That's something that I just continuously read for that area. So back to January, I was seeing coming up here that Russia is going to be looking for new sneak attacks on the US. I don't get that there will be any like serious major escalations, like, you know, that we need to be super concerned about, although we should be a little bit concerned because I was seeing Russian ships snooping around the U.S. oceans. So this could be alarming and, you know, a means of concern to some degree. Last month I also predicted that there would be escalations further within the war with Israel and that situation, more so than we had already seen. And of course, we did see that in December, as I said. Well, I didn't say Syria specifically, but what happened was Syria was decimated to the point that Assad actually fled the country. That's pretty big. So that's big news. Big, like, historical news right there. So, moving on from the news, I'd like to get more into what you could call the anecdotal personal experience, the energetic effect of what's going on in January and how it may affect you on a personal level. What I was seeing was the second chakra. The second chakra is just below the belly button, and it's an energy center that usually has to do with your emotions, but it can also have to do with sensuality and sometimes sexuality too. But what I was saying was that energy center just exploding, and this being related to an intense frequency shift taking place that involves basically it has to do with the truth coming out in social settings. And I was also getting this also for the first chakra as well, but not so much as the second chakra, and that is the root chakra at the base of the spine, basically where you sit. And that has to do more with your wellness, your safety, security, survival, and sometimes finances and things like that can be associated with that chakra. But those chakras are just blowing up in the sense of expelling stagnant energy. And this can be kind of intense for some people, What I got was that the individual greed is bleeding into the collective. And it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like there's there's so much energy of kind of exposing the truth and being forced to be around the collective rather than the individual. So it's like people are learning to trust the group, trust people, rather than feel like they have to hide things for themselves. And so a lot of this has to do with the survival and also keeping emotions bottled up and not expressing themselves and not feeling comfortable to express themselves and their emotions to the collective, keeping it bottled up inside, but also with their resources and not feeling like they can share them, feeling like they have to hoard things for themselves as an individual. But what's going on is this is kind of blowing up that energy, and people are learning to kind of trust that they can share these things with the collective. And that's really a big deal here energetically in January. When I was tuning into this energy, I was really getting a lot of excitement and a lot of pain in a very intense way, and that this is going to be very challenging for people. But with this challenge, there's a pressure to grow on a spiritual level. So on a 3D level, or I don't like saying 3D, but let's say on a physical level, or on a body level, I should say, it's going to be challenging. But on a spiritual level, on a spirit level, as energetically you could say, it's going to be kind of awesome and exciting because there's all this pressure that's forcing this massive energetic growth to take place. Sometimes pressure creates growth, and this is that taking place very strongly in January. I know this has kind of been something I've said in the past, but it's really happening in January. So karma is building up, and it's like built up to the point where it's blowing up. It's like too much pressure, and now it's gonna explode. And this is going to need to be dealt with. So there's a lot of karma exploding, so to speak. And this is due to social pressure. People are going to feel somewhat smothered, even if people aren't necessarily around. Just on an energetic level, they may feel kind of like pressure from facing the truth with other people socially, and it's going to be hard to escape, or it's going to feel like you can't escape, and it's going to be true that you really can't escape this energy. And that's why I named the title of this video Face the Light, because there's going to be a lot of truth coming out in the world, in the media, but also on personal levels. We're going to have to face the truth, face the light, face the sun. I don't know. These are just the abstract thoughts coming to my mind to describe that energy. But anyways, you're not going to be able to escape. It's going to feel like there's pressure smothering you socially. And the best thing you can do is just face the light. So this month is going to be good for swallowing your pride. It's going to be good for confessing to some extent. That doesn't mean you should just confess everything to everyone. You should still use discretion with that. But regardless, confessions on some level seem to be appropriate. Teamwork is going to be much more available, and I would encourage to push for more teamwork in January. Fostering trust and companionship is a big deal for January. So those are things to take advantage of. So January is going to be bad for individuality, not so great for trying to do things on your own. I'm not going to say it's bad for doing things on your own. It's just that there's going to be a lot of benefit to not doing it on your own. Trying to prove things true or false is not really going to work out for you in January. There's going to be a lot of truth coming out. It may not be what you think, and it's going to come out naturally on its own. There's no need for you to push to try and prove anything to anyone, and if anything, it's just going to backfire on you. That's the sense that I was getting. So don't try and push truth on other people. Let it just happen on its own. And it is a good month for being invested in the general good of the group. So I guess the inverse of that would be it's a bad month for not being invested in the good of the group. So I guess don't be selfish is probably an easier way of saying that. But anyways, it's a great month for bonding. Now, when I asked in meditation for some advice for this video to give to everyone, what came through was, do not be in need on an individual basis. And that was kind of confusing. Do not be in need on an individual basis. And I was like, what does that mean? And the answer I got for what does that mean was that you should work together with shared goals. So do not be in need on an individual basis. In other words, you don't have to be an individual that's in need. You can reach out to other people and have shared goals. So work with others, in other words. January is going to be a month of old thought patterns breaking down, and because of that, I am also going to be teaching a meditation class because I feel that it is the perfect timing to do this, although it's the worst timing financially. But energetically, it's just such a good opportunity that I just had to do it anyways, even if it doesn't make sense financially. But it's a great time to build proper new thought patterns, energy patterns, wiring in your brain, rewiring your brain in the right way that you want it to be. It's a great month for that. So these classes will be about basic psychic meditation, which is teaching people to become more aware and sense energy around them and within them. Of course, this will be leading to a longer class, hopefully, where I will be teaching people how to do readings like I do. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. These will be taught as a single group progresses. I will be kind of tuning in, reading the people in the class, reading the class as a whole energetically, seeing where things need to go, and kind of being guided by spirit to see where to take each class individually, and if I do other classes with other batches of students, each class is going to be a little bit different because of that. The link to this will be in the description, of course. I'm not posting this. I'm not posting the information about this publicly, so the only way that you're going to find these videos about it is in the link in the description of this video, or if you're on my Patreon page, you have already seen it. Go ahead and sign up before it's too late, because this class is starting January 3rd. And you can be up to 1 week late signing up at the latest, but it's better if you're on time, because then you can really keep up with the videos and interact with me so that if you ask questions and whatnot, I will be able to address it in the next class video rather than being behind and not really having that interaction as much as the videos are coming out. So sign up before it's too late. Also, I have 2025 psychic predictions, ETs coming to Earth in person in 2025. I actually put that out before the whole drone thing became such a big deal. And I don't think that people are going to necessarily know that these are ETs walking among us, but I do see these ETs that basically look like humans or are able to blend in a way where people don't see them, and they're going to influence humanity culturally and make some major shifts around March of 2025. If you'd like to see the full 2025 psychic predictions video, check that out in the link, of course. Also, I have to mention as well, my Patreon is free to join as a free member, and you can get all the public posts for free. Also, if you would like to see the paid content, there is a free 1-week trial, and it's very easy to cancel before you get charged if you just want to check that out to see the paid content for free. Basically, it is like an encyclopedia of different names. I do blind readings on many people. Like recently I did Bill Gates. And basically it's like remote viewing. I take a 6-digit random number, associate it with a name. All I do is I pull a random number, I do a reading on that number, and after I do the reading, I see what the name was. So in other words, I don't know who I'm reading until after I do the reading. The last one I did was Bill Gates. That was very interesting. I also do this with crypto predictions, hundreds of crypto coins, and every now and then I'll do a quick trade where I kind of gamble on the idea that I'll buy it here, sell it here, and they're meant to be like a month or two, maybe 3 months or so of waiting before they hit those targets, hopefully, but nothing is guaranteed here. And I will mention, it is like an encyclopedia, but it is not literally an encyclopedia because I don't have everything listed out alphabetically. You have to use the search bar, in other words, to search for what you're looking for. But regardless, don't forget to check out all the links. There's the, I guess recently I posted about Finland and the UK, and also news, that being just whatever's going on in the world at the time. These are all things you can find on my Patreon page, and of course the other links to everything I mentioned in this video should be in the description of this video. And if it's not there, it should be in the comments section below this video. Sorry, that was a lot of talking about stuff, mostly because of this new class. I just want to get people aware that that is coming up soon and to not miss out on that before it happens with such short notice. Give this video a thumbs up. Thank you for watching and have a great day.